Welcome back to the show, everybody. While the prices of crypto are currently falling like a manhole cover from the sky, the American Bankers Association is saying they're going to flip the switch for ISO 20022. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradleyAbove, and everything that we're talking about here today, $2.040 trillion market cap. A lot of bleeding off, ladies and gentlemen. We are down 8.58% on the crypto market cap. Ooh, put a coat on. It's cold out. Bitcoin at $43,000, almost flat. Ethereum at $3,300 here. Solana's $148.65 just now, and Cardano's $1.22. XRP is 75 cents, 8.5% on the 24-hour, 10.6% down on the 7-day. So you see the majority of that is in the 24-hour shot there. That's what's been going on. Welcome to crypto. Well, I can tell you right now, buying the dip is what we do in this house. Not giving any financial advice here, just my digital perspectives. And I tell you, I'm going to keep buying it until it's out of reach. And this is in reach right here. 0.7264 on the bottom and 0.8323 on the top side. We got some information for you today. Might put a little pep in your step. I think you're going to want it. Numbers are brought to you by PureVPN, ladies and gentlemen. 5-year special for $1.33 a month, 88% off. Leave no digital trace of your identity online. And that's why I use it. You go to my videos, and in the description or comment section, you can click right down there. There's a link right there. And so many other products that I use as well on here. I don't offer anything that I don't use myself. Comment section or description box, PureVPN, 5-year special, 88% off. Take a look right here. Airbnb could soon add support for cryptocurrency payments. You don't say. Of course they're going to. Everyone else is, right? Take a look at this. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Web3. Now run, retweet, and tell everybody, what in the world is this?
Proof of stake is hard, but what I do know is when we learn a shard, we'll change the whole game, though.
E2.0, yo! E2.0, yo! E2.0, yo! E2.0, yo! Shot 3, BLS, and Lamport, and all of this crypto just sets the stage for Merkle proofs, plasma chains, plat, plat, Seekers, Narcs, come to solve a plat, plat, privacy.
Okay, that's enough. I can't take it anymore. Go clean your room. That's the first thought that's coming to my mind here. This is Web3. This is the answer for all of us moving to the new internet of value. Are you kidding me? This is a disgrace. And then you get into this. This is Vinay Gupta, who has made no bones about what was going on in the early days of Ethereum. Shout out to Wheezy, TAIG, and Ripple Eye. These people are doing the work that of 100 men, there's no question the work that's getting done out here. You guys are incredible. Check this out.
If we were going to actually become functioning parts of the global economy, we had to not allow the space that we were in to be overrun by fraud. Right? Because at that point, you can't make any claim that we created a libertarian environment. What we created, unfortunately, to a very substantial degree, was a criminal environment because we had technologies which could have blocked crime and we didn't use them that way. And as a result, an enormous number of people literally got ripped off from one end to the other. And because all the numbers were going up, you know, a lot of that fraud was just buried in growth in the underlying platform tokens. You know, you lose a bunch of money on an ICO, but you make it back up because your remaining Ether is worth 40 times what it was the day before. Those are completely exceptional market conditions, right? And those market conditions, let us not forget, every penny that went in came from somebody else taking a loss, right? These numbers don't just appear from nowhere. A lot of people lost a lot of money in crypto, and that money is what fueled the ICO scams. So we have to think about this in terms of wealth transfer versus wealth creation. Crypto was an enormously effective bubble in terms of wealth transfer. It was a terrible machinery in terms of wealth creation. And I bailed very, very, very early I haven't held tokens in anything, not even Bitcoin or Ether, in years.
And there you have it. And that's why he divested in Ethereum after joining it early on in the early days. This is someone who really understood and really communicated to us in other videos. He was having these open conversations directly with Joseph Lubin and cited him as one of the people that clearly understood that all of this that was being done with Ethereum should really be dealt with the SEC, and not in a back channel kind of way to get a free pass, but in a legitimate way where they needed to file with the SEC. Now, it's not over yet, because while he's giving you the real story here, what do we know? They were working on a song with unicorns and rainbows because they were all getting rich. Take a listen to this.
What's actually happening with all of this stuff, right, is there are a bunch of people that have a shit ton of Ether, right? I sold out at $14 a coin. We broke our legal situation, right? The foundation did something stupid that exposed all of us to a shit ton of liability. And at that point, my choice was divesting or moving to a jurisdiction without an extradition treaty with the US. So I divested, knowing that it was going to cost me tens of millions of dollars. Full whack, it would have cost me $56 million. So what I should really have done is moved to a place with no extradition treaty with the US and accepted that I was hiding out. But such is life. The Yang. So what they're doing is this: you've got $500 million worth of Ether, right? You can't sell $500 million worth of Ether without crashing the Ether price. So what you're looking for is ways of turning your Ether into money in ways which don't crash the Ether price by selling out and turning it into dollars. This is the core goal. So what they've discovered is a whole bunch of weird protocols that allow people to borrow, to lend money, lend their Ether out, and then claim interest on the Ether, which is then paid in real currencies. So what we're doing is we're building a whole kind of speculative leverage market. You've got 1,000 Ether. You want to buy more Ether because you think the price is going up. So you borrow money against your 1,000 Ether into another token, then you sell those tokens for more Ether. And so you've got all of this kind of leveraged financialization stuff going on. The critical thing is that it's all zero sum. Every penny made in these markets is being lost somewhere else in the system. And the non-zero sum use of crypto is like 0.25% of the total transaction volume. So, to all intents and purposes, what we've gotten is very, very, very aggressive, unregulated crypto speculation.
And that's exactly right. The problem here is this. At the time, it was Jay Clayton who was the head of the SEC, right? It's still a problem today because Gary Gensler hasn't taken any action on it. And he voiced very clearly and very articulately and succinctly that he understood while teaching at MIT the next wave of professionals to come into this industry and this sector, that Ethereum was a security in his eyes. He's done nothing. And you know what? Former SEC Chairman Jay Clayton here told Blockworks that he hadn't expected to be involved in companies in the digital asset space when he left his government position in December 2020, which we know is probably not true either, right? But coming down to here, we know that he put this lawsuit out the day before he left, or the day he left office. And it says here, Clayton's move against Ripple also infuriated many of its supporters who demanded answers on how XRP was considered a security by the SEC, while other cryptocurrencies like Ether were not being charged. Well, this is what Clayton said. He couldn't comment on the Ripple action because it's a pending case. But listen to what he says here. But in an interview with Blockworks, he says, if you're raising money from the general public in the form of tradable instrument to finance a project or venture, that's a security offering, and that needs to be conducted in accordance with the registration and requirements of the SEC, including providing financial statements and other important disclosures. Well, Jay, I'm so glad to have that clear definition right there from you, because now I want to know why you allowed Ethereum to not register as a security, knowing they did an initial coin offering for which they were able to teach people, investors, how to create multiple accounts, if not hundreds and thousands of accounts, to make Ethereum look like it was decentralized because of the massive amounts of accounts, the thousands of accounts that were created. But then Joseph Lubin taught them how to disguise that by creating multiple fake accounts. We've got the video evidence. How is it under your tenure you were letting that happen, and you did let it happen? That, by your own definition, is your dereliction of duty or incompetence. Now, neither one are a good choice, but I'll let you pick. Look, right here, this is a clip from Brian Brooks, and it's from Greg Kidd here, and shout out to Greg Kidd. And basically, he's saying in this clip, and I'm not going to play it for you because we have a lot to go over here still, and what its summation is this: we don't need another regulator. And the problem with regulation today is they want to regulate entities, when the real path forward here to unlock the regulatory path to proper oversight without stifling innovation. And I am surmising and paraphrasing in all of this and drawing from other areas that Brian has spoke and Chris Giancarlo, but I think they both agree on this point. If you want to move forward and allow innovation in this digital cryptocurrency, digital payment world to happen, you have to regulate activities, not just entities. Therein lies the difference. So we'll see how that shapes up, because we got more news here. And it's from Ron Hammond. Shout out to Ron Hammond. Even with the snow adding more gridlock to DC, things haven't slowed down for crypto policy. Congress has plans in early 22 for hearings, legislation, future educational effort, and 3 topics dominating our conversation this week with members and staff. He's going to break this down for us really quickly, and I'm going to read it to you, but I want to encourage you to know, as we move into the next piece of news after piece here, you're going to see an alignment with Congress and the financial sector and where we are going. I believe you're going to see that today. Stable coins are front and center still and will be for some time between the Senate banking hearing and on stable coins in December, the crypto CEO hearing in the House, and multiple statements from members of Congress working on stable coin legislation. Expect busy few months. Climate impact has skyrocketed in our conversations recently. Large focus around Bitcoin's mining impact in states like New York and Washington. This is a critical moment for the industry as Congress seems eager to push through the talking points and substantively learn more. Stay tuned. He goes on to say, NFTs have taken the Hill by storm. Just as it hits with mainstream culture, both sides of the aisle are wanting to learn more about the issue, potential regulatory issues, and what is in store for the future. Rather than being critical, there is an excitement about what can happen. Now that is positive, an excitement about what can happen, and so is this. The final interesting fact about these conversations is that they are expanding outside the scope of the House Financial Services and Senate Banking Committee. Every committee is looking for an angle to discuss crypto, and the industry should view this as an exciting opportunity, and you're daggone right it is. Shout out to Ron Hammond here, because I tell you something, this means it's such a hot topic and it's such an issue that could easily be made a bipartisan issue that everyone's looking to get their name attached to it, because by June or July, they're all going to start campaigning for their next election. So take a look at this. This is R3 right here. Sorry, I have about 7 million tabs open. Things are running slow this morning. In an interview with CNBC, R3's Chief Technology Officer, Richard Gendel Brown, discusses how central banks and regulators are attempting to determine the safest approach to launch digital versions of the national currencies they hold. Here it is right here. I mean, this is hugely positive. It really echoes the sentiment of exactly what we heard from Ron Hammond. Check it out. And we're about to hear the flip the switch from the American Bankers Association, and you won't believe the size of that organization and what they've done. And that letter to the Fed, things are heating up.
Coin, it was, it's been around for 11 years now. It was kind of, if you like, the prototype that showed the way for lots of other things. But at its core, the idea was, can we take this idea from the physical realm, cash, where I can go into a store, I can pay, and that transaction is instant, final, it leaves no trace, and nobody can stop me. Can we achieve something similar in the digital realm? And things like Bitcoin showed that we could. But there were some problems. That first prototype, if you like, it was slow, it was expensive. And of course, transactions were denominated in Bitcoin, not pounds, euros, dollars. You look at the debates that are raging in the world of central banks and the commercial banks who work with them. They're saying, well, if some of that insight is correct, if physical cash begins to decline to irrelevance, do we as societies, do central banks, do they have an obligation, do they have an obligation to provide those cash-like properties for private transactions, for permissionless transactions within limits, within bounds? Do they have an obligation to provide that to citizens in the digital realm? And that's really at the heart of the retail central bank digital currency debate. Can we do that? Should we do that? And if so, how do we put the right limits around it so that it doesn't become a haven for financial crime and fraud?
Well, and the other part that they never seem to really discuss here is so we don't, as banks, and I know he's R3, but so we as banks in this conversation figure out a way to do this that we don't lose our control, power, and relevance. Don't believe that. It's still true. And in fact, let's bring you to this. First of all, let me give a shout out to an instant Hall of Famer, coin casher right here, Zapostle and Crypto Maniac 101, all of them, but especially Coin Casher here on the reset, because I was looking for this clip this morning, and what an amazing space this is of people. What an amazing group of people in this space. I wanted this clip. I put down what I could remember about it, and Coin Casher came through. You're amazing, my friend. This is from 2019. This is Jim Armanda, okay, from the Clearinghouse, and he's going to tell you in 2019 that they were going to mass enabling when it came to the core systems firing up simultaneously. And then we're about to look at the American Bankers Association letter to the Fed. And you tell me what in the world's going on here. Check it out.
You heard a little bit about the Clearinghouse. What I might add is we've been around for a long time,
By the way, very quickly, the gentleman he is speaking to at the time is the president of the American Bankers Association, where the letter to the Fed came from.
You heard a little bit about the Clearinghouse. What I might add is we've been around for a long time, 166 years. We've been operating payment systems, started with check processing and moved to ACH and wire. And so we're the oldest by far. We were the Fed before there was a Fed. We used to print currency, store the nation's gold, do all the activities that the Fed does today. In fact, we helped stand up the Fed back in the day. I guess it was 1913. I was not here then. But as you heard, we clear and settle about $2 trillion a day. We are owned by 24 of the largest banks in the country, and I think a lot of you know that. But I think what's important to note is we service every bank who wants to use our services. We have about close to 500 banks that use our various payment rails. And let's face it, in the digital age, which is clearly what we are in today, our payment rails were developed 40 years ago. Pre-digital age, pre-internet, pre-everything. Actually, I find it amazing that I can order a package from Amazon, have it delivered faster than I get a payment from one bank to another. The fintechs are leveraging that vacuum, if you will. They're attacking that vacuum, but they're doing it kind of in I would call a Rube Goldberg-ish way. The consumer thinks the money has moved, but it hasn't. The money's not in the account. If it's going through the ACH rails, it could be a 3 or 4 day event.
A quick follow-up on the cores. And I know you guys are deep in discussions with primarily those three and a host of others. Rough time frames. I know you guys have been working to get this system implemented. What are they telling you roughly in terms of how quickly they could be partners on implementation?
I think the end of maybe this quarter, beginning of next quarter, they're going to start to light up. They all have multiple systems.
Right.
So it's been tough. I think FIS has told us they're doing what's called mass enablement, so they will be able to light up, I think, all of their cores simultaneously. Mass enablement, so they will be able to light up, I think, all of their cores simultaneously. I might be a little bit off on that, but not by much.
So there you have it. I mean, that's 2019. Jim Armando from the Clearinghouse telling you about mass enabling, lighting up the cores. He says FIS, which I believe he may have been referencing Fidelity Information Services. And I could be wrong about that, but I think that is what he's referencing there. But nevertheless, he's telling you they clear and settle $2 to $5 trillion per day. Now, when he said that they were firing up this quarter or next quarter, he's talking about 2019 at the time. Well, remember, just yesterday, I showed you diagrams from Swift about the different platforms and payment systems that are already going into community testing or live. If you look at the gray diamonds, 2022, right? You know, so it doesn't mean that he was necessarily wrong, and it could have got postponed because of COVID later into or early 2020. So we don't know there, but what we do know is, and I'll even show you this because this is another one that I wanted to show you here that shows here other ones in 2022. You'll see 2023 here. Other payment platforms that are going to be live that are switching over to the ISO 20022 ISO adoption, which we know is a payment language that's actually been around for at least a decade. But the difference is that Ripple and XLM Stellar have been brought on to be members of this standards body and committee for ISO 2022, understanding that this new payment language is to be adopted because it will allow for that unified interoperability on the back end for payments and settlement and messaging. But it also opened the door for the use of digital asset settlement as well, right? It's going to open that door for that as well. Now, that is extremely exciting. So that takes us to present day, 2019 to present day. American Bankers Association, for which the gentleman talking to Jim Armando was the president at the time, may still be, I'm not sure, but the president of ABA at that time. The American Bankers Association is a lobby group, and they also created the routing number for checks and payments. All right, this is not just anyone saying this. Take a look at this letter where they send this to the Federal Reserve System Board of Governors, and it says right here, the American Banking Association appreciates the opportunity to comment the notice adoption of message format request for comment. It says here, the notice regarding Fed Wire Fund Services, ISO 2022, ABA supports the migration to new message format that allows for greater detail to be associated with each payment. We believe a well-executed implementation plan is essential for the switchover in November 2023. We're inside 24 months here, ladies and gentlemen, for the entire banking system is what they're talking about here. And recommendations to achieve this include, in the response, it says, notice the plans for making migration to ISO 2022 for FedWire on a single day, no earlier than November 2023, instead of the phased approach originally considered in 2018 and later postponed. A single day switch means that all participants in the system must have thoroughly tested their systems rigorously, or the system will be disrupted. It is important to note that in addition to FedWire, the clearinghouse also operates the private sector wire and clearing system, CHIPS. Any transition to ISO 2022 must be carefully coordinated between the two systems. Listen to this. Questions posed by the Board of Governors Federal Reserve System says, do you support the single day implementation strategy? If not, what strategy would you prefer? They said yes. We support the single day migration as the best strategy. Should the reserve banks implement ISO 2022 for FedWire in November 23? If you prefer a different date, please provide a rationale. It says, yes, November 2023 is the preferred timeline for FedWire to migrate to ISO 2022. It is important to launch on the same day as CHIPS, the private sector wire clearing services. And listen, again, Stellar, Ripple are members, the only two digital asset blockchain companies, projects, I know it's a nonprofit at Stellar, to be brought on to the standards body committee for ISO 2022. And doesn't that allow for RippleNet to excel just in the same manner that Brad Garlinghouse told us about right here in Swell?
We started building RippleNet with the thesis that crypto liquidity would eventually be able to support robust global payments, large payments. RippleNet was designed so that customers seeing the benefits of our fiat-based network could flip the switch to ODL once the market was mature enough. And this is exactly what's happening.
Isn't that right? Isn't this exactly what's happening? The American Bankers Association, let me take you back to this. The American Bankers Association is the voice of the nation's $23.3 trillion banking industry, which is composed of small, regional, and large banks that together employ more than 2 million people, safeguard $19.12 trillion in deposits, and extend nearly $11 trillion in loans. Are we getting this? Are we getting this? This gentleman, that company, Ripple, is a part of the ISO 2022 Standards Body Committee. I don't know of any investment I've had or been involved in where I could think to myself, this is so exciting, because I know that they've just put a deadline on this. They just said by November 2023. And what did we learn yesterday from the lady at Swift? Remember her? We looked at her yesterday, and she told us yesterday that MT, message payment system 2, 9, and 11, or whatever they were, original payment systems will be decommissioned by 2025, which means the old payment rails will run side by side with the new ISO messaging system for 2 years to make sure that there is no interruption or disruption in a harmful way, and they could easily refer back to any payment system they need to make the adjustment if there is a need for one at all. This, to me, is extremely exciting to where we're going, ladies and gentlemen. I tell you, I don't know what day it happens. I know they said November 2023. That is not a long time away from me, and I also tend to think that between now and then, we've got to see clarity come from the SEC and the agencies alike. We got to see clarity come from either the President's Working Group and the Treasury, or we got to see clarity come from legislation in Congress, and or all of the above. And when we do, it is going to open the door for that rise in adoption to get everyone on board by November 23 for when they fire up this new ISO 20022 standard for everyone to be on and a part of in the payments world. Looking right here, death crosses have signaled major or intermediate price bottoms. Previous occurrences such as those in early February 21 and July 21 have caused the price of XRP to climb afterwards. And then there's this little tidbit from Trader 1976. Shout out to Coins Kid for pointing this one out. Has anyone noticed how eerily similar XRP price pattern was in 21 versus 2017? Fingers crossed. And this is what he's pointing out here, because this was 2017 and what it looked like. And look at these similarities here in these points. Not saying it'll repeat, but if it does, my goodness, have we got a spike sitting somewhere in front of us that would just be incredible. You know, history doesn't often repeat itself, but it certainly does rhyme at times. And I'll take anything close to it if it's out there to have it. And when I look at the fundamental news that is in front of us today about the ISO 2022 system and the transition that is taking place and the case knowing it will end April, May at the latest, and the fact that once we have clarity, Ripple absolutely intends to IPO, you tell me what's coming. I'll catch all of you on the next one.